What's up, y'all? Deb from the place doing a quick one with it today because I really needed to jump on and talk about these Jumpstart cards from Avatar. Man, they're blowing me away with this Jumpstart set. I wouldn't usually talk about Jumpstart, but again, this is just the best looking Jumpstart set I've ever seen. And that's not just the reprints, it's also the new stuff, which we will talk about a bit today. I've chosen 15 new Jumpstart cards that I think you really need to know about if you ever play Commander ever in your life or ever plan on doing it, because again, these cards are ludicrous. The wrapper, it's that good, but again, the reprints are good. We can go ahead and jump into it because you see right here on your screen that Worldly Tutor is a card in this set. Worldly Tutor is a card in this set. The reprints are basically like, if you're new to Magic and you want to jump in with Avatar and play some Jumpstart and stuff like that, learning to play Magic, then you'll also get some of the best Commander cards you could ever hope to get if you open the right stuff, like Worldly Tutor over here. Mystical Tutor is also in the set if you wanted the blue one. That's insanity. Enlightened Tutor is in this set if you wanted the white tutor. I mean, these are really, really, really good cards that fetch a pretty decent price. And you can just grab them in Jumpstart packs. That's it's bonkers. It's bananas. But those aren't the only good reprints. You know, Obscuring Haze, basically all of the free If You Control a Commander cards also got reprinted. So again, these are just like good cards you have to have if you ever hope to play Commander. And I imagine that is mostly for new players. But it's also obviously incentive for returning players to pick up some of these packs if you don't have these cards or you want different versions of them. So you get Obscuring Haze, the green one that if you have a Commander, cast it for free, prevent all combat or damage that would be dealt this turn by creatures your opponents control. So kind of a fog effect for free. Flawless Maneuver, the white one, if you control the Commander, you get it for free. Creatures you control gain indestructible. Crazy. Fierce Guardianship, the blue one, free spell to counter target non-creature spell. This card's like really expensive. Deflecting Swat's like $30 too. Free card if you have your Commander, and you can choose new targets for a spell or ability. So crazy that we got like all of these. Every single one of them. We got Deadly Rollick too, of course, the black one, exile a creature for free. Nasty. But we got crazy stuff too, like Entomb in here. Search your library for a card, throw it in your yard, shuffle, just a single black mana, and Gamble. So we also got a red tutor in line with those other tutors from earlier. So just disgusting stuff in terms of the reprints in this set. But again, there was some new stuff that I want to talk about here that I'm really excited about. I've been building a lot more Commander lately and even playing the odd Commander game here and there. So there's just a lot of stuff in the set that really interests me. And even if you don't play Commander, you just like to look at cool Magic cards, which is why we're all really here when it really boils down to it. You know what I mean? That's what we want, is cool Magic cards. And I think all of these are. So let's take a look first at a couple of cards that care about creature type. First, Lo and Lee, Royal Advisor. So 4 mana, 2 and double black for a 3/3 legendary human advisor. Whenever an opponent discards a card or mills one or more cards, put a +1/+1 counter on each advisor you control. Okay. But you can also pay 2 and then a blue-black hybrid to have target player mill 4 cards. That is open-ended and is not a tap ability. So if you have 6 mana, 9 mana, whatever, you can just keep doing it over and over. I like that. But mostly I like that this cares about advisors. You don't see a lot of cards that care about advisors in general, and that's pretty awesome. Also, you know, obviously it's self-sustaining. You make people mill cards, and you get +1/+1 counters on your advisors. Just nasty little piece of work that I like. But Suki, Kyoshi Captain, is 3 mana, 2 and a white for a 3/3 legendary human warrior ally. Other warriors you control get +1/+1, and if you pay 4 mana, 3 and a white, all attacking warriors you control just gain double strike until end of turn. Sick. You know, warriors is another creature type that's not necessarily like completely unheard of, right? But it is one of those that's undervalued, undersold, and I guess, you know, enabled. Right. So cool to see a card that cares about warriors here and is not just an anthem effect and that's it. You know, giving double strike is crazy, especially in combination with an anthem effect. It's really, really good. So fan of this too, man. But we'll move on to Fire Nation Salvagers. 5 mana is a little steep, but look at what this does. 3 and 2 black for a 3/3 human soldier with menace. When it enters, put a +1/+1 counter on a creature or vehicle that you control. Whenever one or more creatures you control with counters on them deal combat damage to a player, put target creature or vehicle card from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So combat damage can be a lot to ask from time to time, but in your like Golgari +1/+1 counters deck, I think it's worth playing. Even at 5 mana, I think this is absolutely insane. If you can get in with a couple of creatures and, you know, you got trample or whatever, get in with a couple of creatures and suddenly you're filling the table with stuff out of their graveyard. And you might make the argument there's nothing in their graveyard, but I think most of the time there will be something that you can grab. So just think it's gross. You only get like one reanimated thing per, even if you have like 3 dudes that deal combat damage, you only get to reanimate one thing. But I still think that could be fan-freaking-tastic. Seriously. And obviously in Commander, you can attack like different people at different times. So, or at the same time. So if you damage 2 different players, then you get 2 different things if you do it that way. So that's also pretty gross. You can put the counter on itself and then get in with the menace. Like altogether, a cool package here. A very cool package. But next is Jet Rebel Leader. This is 4 mana, 3 and a white for a 3/4 legendary human rebel ally. Whenever Jet attacks, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a creature card, mana value 3 or less, from among them onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. The rest go on the bottom of your library in a random order. So this is not Winota, but boy, is it close enough to Winota that I had to point it out in this video. You have to get a relatively small guy, mana value 3 or less, but there can be plenty of things you can get with that. I don't think this is your commander, but it might show up in the 99 from time to time. Cool card. Next is Master's Guidance. 3 mana, 2 and a green for an enchantment. Whenever you attack with 2 or more legendary creatures, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target attacking creatures. At the beginning of your end step, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, just draw a card. So this can draw the card the turn it comes into play. I like that about it. Should not be too difficult to have a creature power 4 or greater, which is kind of a sub-theme in green in this set. And I think this is maybe the best thing that cares about that. It's not like Garrick's Uprising or anything, but it does more or less guarantee you a card every turn if you keep big creatures in play. That's great. But I also like the wording on the first ability. Attack with 2 guys, and you can put a +1/+1 counter on each of those guys if you want to. Or you can put the counters on other attacking creatures, which I think is pretty cool. So, up to 2 +1/+1 counters every turn if you have legendary dudes. But even if you don't have legendary dudes, it's still kind of a, Phyrexian Arena for green, like draw you an extra card every turn for 3 mana on an enchantment. And, that's pretty serviceable, dude. So kind of like that. But next is Monk Gyatso. Did I get that right? This is 4 mana, 3 and a white for a 3/3 legendary human monk. It looks like he's about to eat something delicious. Whenever another creature you control becomes the target of a spell or ability, you may airbend that creature. Nasty. Pretty nasty. Am I getting this creature right? Kira, Great Glass Spinner? This reminds me of a couple of other creatures we've seen in Magic history that basically say, oh, if your opponent tries to target a different creature than this, they can't, more or less. So, pretty cool thing. They have to take the Monk Gyatso out before they can more or less kill anything else on your side of the table, which is great. So I like this. And note, by the way, that you can target stuff with your own things. Like you can target your creature with your own things and then choose to airbend that creature. So that might be good for saving a creature. Something happens in combat. Who knows? So I kind of like the different spread of sort of things you can do with this. But 4 mana, again, might be a bit steep for this, but it does protect more or less all your other creatures in a way that I think is really interesting. So I like it. Next is Tale of Katara and Toph. So 3 mana, 2 and a green for an enchantment. Creatures you control have, whenever this creature becomes tapped for the first time during each of your turns, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So, okay, so all of your elves that tap for mana now get larger every time they tap for mana. Just get that out of the way. But also just anytime your creatures attack, non-vigilant creatures attack, then they get a little bit larger. That's good. That's really, really good for just 3 mana. And it will usually have some sort of effect the turn it comes into play. Even if you play it on curve, you can probably swing with something that turn and go ahead and start making these creatures larger. But especially if you get it, turn 6 in Commander, then suddenly it's spreading a bunch of counters around. So like a lot about this, if you have other creatures with activated abilities, or if you have, say, an enchantment like Freed from the Real that allows you to untap the creature over and over for a mana investment, tap it for something, get the +1/+1 counter, untap it. It doesn't work that way because it says for the first time during each of your turns. They took out the ability to do that, but whatever, still your creatures will get larger turn over turn, and most of your creatures can do that. You can station things or crew vehicles. That's another way to get it going. So yes, pretty awesome. There might be turns where you can't get very aggressive, and so this doesn't do anything. But I think for the most part, this helps you stay aggressive. So I like this. We'll move on to Tui and La. Did not nail that one. This is the Moon and the Ocean. 4 mana, 3 and a blue for a 3/3 legendary fish spirit. Like that. Whenever this becomes tapped, draw a card. Like that too. Whenever this becomes untapped, put a +1/+1 counter on it. I like that. You know, this one works with Free from the Real, right? Okay, now I can talk about Freed from the Real. That's a 3-mana aura that you stick on a creature, and you can pay a blue to untap the creature. I think you might be able to pay a blue to tap the creature as well. But either way, you can just tap and untap this over and over to draw your deck, or however much mana you have at the time, and draw a bunch of cards. Works really well with Freed from the Real, man. And there's a couple of other enchantments like auras that are like Freed from the Real. And as you tap it and untap it, it'll also get huge. So love it with that card, but I just kind of like it in general. This is another one that is 4 mana. So it is a little bit of an investment. But that said, man, if you can get rocking and rolling with this, crazy. I wish it had some kind of keyword ability, flying or something like that. Would have been nice. But you can find other ways of tapping it down than just trying to get aggressive. And an extra card every turn is wonderful. And if in the right circumstances, it's an extra bunch of cards every turn. So this one might be really powerful in the right situation. So getting into some crazy stuff now. This is in a kind of loose order in terms of like how excited I am for the cards. So again, we're getting into the crazy stuff here, like the Blue Spirit, 4 mana, 3 and a blue for a 2/4 legendary human rogue ally. You may cast the first creature spell you cast each turn as though it had flash. Whenever a non-token creature you control enters during combat, draw a card. So that, again, in Commander, could draw a bunch of cards per turn cycle, right? Again, you have to have the mana and the cards in your hand to actually pull that off. But at the same time, you know, man, I think that this could probably draw a couple extra cards per turn. And your opponents always have to be worried about when you can flash a creature in and what all mana you have open. So pretty cool. I like both lines of text on this card. Sometimes creatures that have ETB triggers or whatever become absolutely insane once you give them flash, and this allows you to do that. And the extra gravy of drawing a card is just one of the best things you can do in a game of Magic. No big deal, right? So again, an investment. 4 mana is an investment, but I think it's one I'm willing to take, right? So cool card here. I just love the design on some of these. But Tectonic Split is this is a banger right here, dude. This is 6 mana, 4 and double green for an enchantment. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice half the lands you control rounded up. This has hexproof. Lands you control have tap, add 3 mana of any one color. So you get a Nyxbloom Ancient for 6 mana that is a lot harder to kill. And, it has hexproof. Like, not only does the card type make it harder to kill, but the fact that it has hexproof means it's sticking around for a good long time. Now, this I love. I feel like I've brought this deck up a few times, but the Jund Edge of Eternities deck that wants to play a bunch of lands, sack those lands, play the lands again out of the graveyard. This is just an immediate upgrade to that deck. Immediate upgrade to that deck. You suddenly tap all your lands for 1 million mana. Doesn't matter that you sacked a bunch of lands when you played this, because you're going to get those lands back anyway with Ice-Still Explorer, Crucible of Worlds, whatever. So a lot of different ways to do it in that deck. So this is just a killer Magic card in a deck like that. And that's not the only Commander deck that would want an effect like this. I think it's pretty crazy in a bunch of stuff. So just get used to seeing this. I think this might have been my number 1 card of the day for Jumpstart stuff today. It really may have been, but again, this is the first thing that I'm like really popping hardcore for. I got a couple of things I want to try this out in, but I've already bought myself that Jund DOE deck for Christmas, and that might be why I'm a little excited and talking about it all the time, because I'm just thinking about all the ways of upgrading it, and this is going in. I don't know if this will be $1 or $10, but we'll have to wait and see. Hold our breath on that one. Next is Bison Whistle. This is such a cool card, man. 2 mana, 1 and a green for an artifact. Pay 1, tap it, look at the top card of your library. If it's a Bison card, you may put it on the battlefield. If it's a creature card, reveal it and put it into your hand. Otherwise, you may put it into your graveyard. So that means you also have the option of leaving it on top of your library if you'd rather draw it when you would next draw a card. But this just basically draws a creature for 1 mana. If you luck out and get a Bison, or notably a Changeling, you just throw that onto the table. That's crazy. That is very good if you're playing a Changeling's deck. But if you're just playing a ton of creatures in your deck, having, a 2 mana card draw effect that draws you an extra card on most turns, probably kind of good enough. And obviously you can field graveyard strategies and stuff too. But for the most part, I think that 2 mana for this is really not too much to ask. A turn over turn card advantage piece for green decks is okay. I don't know if it'll make the cut after you put your Lifecrafter's Bestiary in mono green and your Beast Whisperer in mono green and your other card draw effects or whatever. So we'll see. But I do think this is probably, at least worth considering. But Next is Longshot, Rebel Bowman. This dude's awesome, man. He's not unlike things we haven't seen before, you know what I mean? But that's kind of why I like him. 4 mana, 3 and a red for a 3/3 legendary human rebel ally with reach. Non-creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Longshot deals 2 damage to each opponent's. You got a Goblin Electromancer and a Gutter Snipe in the same guy. This is another one that could have been my number 1 card of the day. Like, no lie. I'm really excited to play this. And like Black Walt's number 3, right? Like, just it's going to be fantastic there. You know, I will say that Harmonic Shaman or whatever doesn't, or Harmonic Prodigy doesn't, like, its abilities don't get doubled by that card. So that kind of sucks. It's like every other creature in your deck does. But this is just another one to throw in the pile of your Gutter Snipes and, you know, every other creature that does a thing like that. Just, I love it. Love it, love it. Love that it says non-creature rather than instant or sorcery. I think that's really good on both modes for what that's worth. I think it's worth a lot. So 4 mana, again, an investment, but cost reduction on the one hand, damage on the other hand. Just everybody loves cards like this. I am not immune to that. As a matter of fact, I am more susceptible to it than the average Magic player, I think. So big freaking fan of this, dude. But next is Fire Nation Occupation. This thing is crazy too, dude. 3 mana, 2 and a black for an enchantment. When it enters, create a 2/2 red soldier creature token with Firebending 1. I believe because the red mana is part of reminder text, like Extort or whatever, that you, well, is it like Extort? Either way, because it's part of reminder text. I don't think this is a Rakdos card in terms of commander, but let me know if I'm wrong on that. Whenever you cast a spell during an opponent's turn, create a 2/2 red soldier creature token with Firebending 1. So not only does it pay you a 2/2 with Firebending when it comes into play, but whenever you cast a spell during an opponent's, whenever you cast a creature with flash, whenever you cast an instant, whatever, that's crazy, dude. I love stuff like this. And this could also go in Black Waltz number 3 for what that's worth. And again, I think it's worth a lot too. You're casting a lot of instants in Black Waltz on your opponent's turns. And just being able to get a 2/2 every time, dude, that's so good. This is one where I often say, like, well, how much mana do you have? How many cards are in your hand to where you can proc this on every turn as part of the turn cycle? This one, I think it's a little bit easier. You know, you can actually just cast like 1 mana instants and draw cards or whatever, and just like keep racking up the cards or racking up the creatures. So this one I don't think is too hard to trigger every turn. And at the very least, you know, twice during a turn cycle should be easy enough. So yeah, this will pay you off a ton of, you know, sacrifice fodder or just dudes to block with or dudes to attack with or whatever. When you do attack with them, suddenly you surge in and get like 4 red mana because you have enough of these guys. Yeah, I think this is a crazy looking Magic card in my opinion, and I want to put it in some decks. I want to put it in some decks so bad. But next we'll look at Duelist Heritage. Jeez, dude. 3 mana, 2 and a white for an enchantment. Whenever 1 or more creatures attack, you may have target attacking creature gain double strike until end of turn. Note that this is not whenever 1 or more creatures you control attack. This is just whenever anything attacks. So if Samantha attacks Bobby, right? If Shanti attacks Tabitha, then you can have Shanti's creatures get double strike, or one of their creatures get double strike. So ludicrous. that is some real power right there. And you could probably set up some politics with this, but just having the ability to do it on your turn with your guys, I think is good enough. You know, permanent double strike on whatever you choose during your turn is great. Not just in like exalted decks, but it is like your Squall deck, you know, the 4 mana Squall that wants him to attack alone. Excellent. But well, I guess he might already give himself double strike from time to time, but you get what I'm pointing, you get what I'm laying down here. But this is good in, I think, most white decks. Like most white decks that want to get aggressive, this looks fantastic because double strike is, you know, barring things like hexproof maybe, I think double strike is one of the best abilities in the game of Magic. And if you can finagle a way to get trample on a creature, we've seen the trample and double strike are maybe basically the 2 best abilities you can put together this side of first strike and death touch. So yeah, man, I think this has some places to go and some people to see in its lifetime. But next, and I believe finally, yes, is Chakra Meditation, which looks like a wild Magic card. 3 mana, 2 and a blue for an enchantment. When it enters, return up to 1 target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Already kind of boss, but whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, give it to me. Draw a card. Oh my goodness. And then discard a card unless there are 3 or more lessons in your graveyard. So in Commander, it might be a little bit tough to get those 3 lessons in your yard. I will fully acknowledge that. But once you do, this just says whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, draw a card, which is an absolutely disgusting line of text to have on a Magic card. That is it's getting hot in here. Like, that is impressive, you know. But in any case, even if you are just looting whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, I'm still into it. I would still take that to Olive Garden on a Saturday night, you know, and I'd pay, you know. This is, I think that, you know, looting whenever you cast an instant or sorcery is good enough, even if you're not doing stuff with lessons. And of course, the enters trigger, which is blinkable, is crazy, just domination on this card. And it looks good. It's a pretty magic card too, for what it's worth. I think I'm up to saying for what it's worth 5 times in this video, but I think that all these things that I've said might be worth something, certainly are. And I think that even if, again, you're not playing lessons, you can definitely dream up situations where this is worth 3 mana in Commander. You know, it ain't Rhystic Study, but it's still going to let you see an awful lot of cards, and you might even want to discard cards, depending on what your deck is doing. So, my goodness gracious, at least like 5 cards in this video I'm ordering day 1 if they're not too expensive. And if they are too expensive, I'll wait like 7 days, they'll go down. But I just hope that this was entertaining for you guys. And, you know, again, if you didn't think these cards are going to be worth looking at coming into the video, I hope I've changed your mind, because some of these are some of the bangingest looking magic cards I've ever seen in my dang old life. So I had to jump on camera and show them to you. But that's all I've got for this one. It's not all the stuff in the Jumpstart set. Go check it out if you haven't yet, because again, just banger after banger after banger, buddy. But in any case, y'all, that is all I've got for this one. Just hit me up with your thoughts and opinions in the comments section, what you want to do with any of these, what you want to do with some of the other Jumpstart cards. And of course, like the video on your way out, button shaped like this. It looks just like, we'll pull back. It looks just like this. You can also subscribe to the channel, trying to get to 150, just at 138 right now. That's not that far away. Get us there. Have a Patreon as well. $1 a month to vote on what content we do around here, but I'm not going to belabor the pitch too much because there's like 8 people watching this video, but I hope that the 8 of you enjoyed it. I am Dev from The Place. Thanks for watching, Wizards. Spread love and be kind.